Welcome to the Following Films podcast, the podcast where we explore the art and craft of filmmaking through conversations with the people who bring movies to life. I'm your host, Chris Maynard, and today we're diving into the haunting and atmospheric world of The Silent Planet, a sci-fi thriller that blends psychological tension with existential dread. Directed by Jeffrey St. Jules, The Silent Planet follows two inmates sentenced to a lifetime of hard labor on a remote world. As isolation takes its toll, their grip on reality begins to slip, forcing them to confront the past they tried to forget. It's a film that raises questions about memory, identity, and what it means to be truly alone. In this episode, I sit down with Jeffrey St. Jules to discuss the inspiration behind the film, its unique approach to storytelling, and my terrible eye for spotting CGI. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. Hey, Jeffrey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it as well.
I loved the film right away. I knew I was in good hands when I see an or alternate title in the
Oh,
in the mix. It's one of those things that I always appreciate, and I it's kind of a silly question, but which title do you prefer? If you had to just go with one, is it something that the Sad Dreams of Earthlings just wouldn't be a title that people would buy into, or because I kind of love that subtitle.
yeah, yeah. I love ors as well. Um, that's a good question. It just seemed like The Silent Planet was the title.
Mm,
But The Sad Dreams of Earthlings is like a title that I keeps coming up for me. I had something else I wrote called The Sad Dreams of Earthlings that I just kind of scrapped. And then there's this big scene in The Silent Planet where that's been cut. Actually, I think it was cut before we even shot it, so I don't think we even filmed it.
mm.
But it's where Theodore is kind of talking to Mona, his wife back home, and he's talking about this old quote about the sad dreams of Earthlings being nothing in space. Um, and then that was kind of a late decision in the edit to in fact, after it was finished edited, I was like, I want to put that in as a subtitle. So it wasn't a plan to put that in there. It wasn't like, oh, this isn't a commercial enough title. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I like both titles. Let's just put it
Well,
that way.
it feels like
That's why I have it as an or. Yeah.
thematically, it absolutely fits the piece as a subtitle, as a title for it. I'm not sure what people would imagine if they saw that title, but after you see the film, it makes perfect sense that this would be there. And could you talk a little bit about the other thing that I was really drawn into right away was the look of the film and the style and the way that it feels incredibly lived in. That you have anytime there's a white surface, there's dirt on it, and it feels like this is a place that people actually live. It in a way, the aesthetics of it kind of remind me a little bit of Silent Running at times, which I say is an absolute compliment because that it feels like this is these are devices that were sent out a long time ago, possibly, or they're not sending out the shiniest, newest object for these people, which would make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like a shout out to our production designer, Andrew Barry, who did all that work. Um, but yeah, I think the intention was always to have it feel more organic, lived in, worn down. We wanted to shoot on actual locations. We wanted it to feel like a kind of 70s
Yeah,
spy film was the idea. We were inspired by Solaris and like The Man Who Fell to
of
Earth,
course. Yeah.
more obscure kind of Russian ones. Um,
Not the remake from Soderbergh. Yeah.
oh, not talking about Solaris, but there's another film that was inspired a lot by this style. It's a Russian film called Per Aspera ad Astra.
Oh no, I'm not familiar with that at all.
Um, uh, but yeah, we wanted it to sort of feel. We didn't want it to be shiny and sleek. We also kind of wanted a bit of a like fun is not the right word, but a bit of a retro, um, maybe a little Doctor Who-ish kind
Yeah.
of as well. Yeah.
Well, if the way I would describe it, it feels handmade. You can feel the intention of a designer behind it, where there's it that I gravitate towards when something does feel like there's a human touch behind it instead of something that is generated by a computer. It just it's the same way that you do something like in your effects in here when you have one of the kind of effects that grabs you right away is you have this smoke rolling over the hill,
Yeah.
and it's something that is it's kind of like the title sequence in The Thing, where you see how they did that with a fish tank and a garbage bag, and they just lit it on fire. It has that thing where you're knowing this is a possibly I'm assuming a practical effect that was just done in a way, and I tend to, if you try to do that in a computer, unless I'm way behind, it probably would not look that good.
Yeah, well,
Did you
to
do
be
it in a computer?
honest, yes.
Holy
Um,
shit! I'm shocked. That looks great. It looks
we
phenomenal.
wanted it to have that, like, I as well, like, especially my earlier films and short films and stuff, I always had a really handmade aesthetic, and that's what I loved.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm glad that you got that feeling from this film because I wanted to kind of have that feel for this film as well, even though we were working with, this is a low budget film, but for me, this is the biggest budget film I've done. Um, and we had like, we had VFX like company, and we had all this stuff that I
Yeah.
used to kind of do in camera, whatever. Um, but I wanted to maintain that feel, that kind of tactile, handmade feel, and hopefully kind of do it in a way that didn't feel like a CGI heavy film. And it's
Well,
not, but that particular smoke was completely, yeah, made by our
that's
VFX.
I love being wrong about that. That's fantastic because it
Yeah, and
does
I'm
give the
glad that you didn't think it was, because that's kind of what I wanted to. I didn't want it
yeah.
to feel like a um, glossy CGI effect. Yeah.
No, it works perfectly.
And
And
of course, there is a lot of the, when they're going through, walking through smoke and stuff, that's all in camera, smoke machines and stuff, mixed with a little bit of
yeah,
lands. Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. Could you also talk a little bit about the casting? I did not. While I tend to watch things without reading a lot about them. So
Yeah.
I've seen your previous stuff. I was interested in this, wanted to watch it. So I don't know the plot, just go in kind of blind. I read Elias's name, but it goes away. And I did not recognize him and put that together till probably halfway through the film that I actually recognized him. And he's so different in this from anything else I've ever seen him in. I wouldn't have thought of him for this role, but he's phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. He does look very different than anything I've seen him. They're talking about Elias Koteas.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sorry. Yes, yes, sorry.
I don't think we said his name. Yeah. Um, but yeah, he just kind of came in with this posture that felt like Theodore, and he just held himself in this way that was like, for the role, that felt like, this is the character. And as soon as I saw that, yeah, I just remember coming back because we shot on this island, some of it, and coming back on the ferry, and he was just like, he had all been like kind of all this makeup on. He was just sitting there in the ferry. This guy in his like outfit is still in his costume. And it's like, oh my God, that's Theodore. That like he inhabited him so well. Um, yeah, and he's just a great actor, and he's got so much. I feel like he's one of those actors that you really feel a lot of pathos for. Like even like in like Thin Red Line and stuff, just his eyes. He's just got something about his eyes.
There's something world weary about him where he carries
Yeah,
the weight of the world on his shoulders. And it just feels like even when he was very young, it felt like he had lived a full life. And he just has that look behind him where I think we probably project a lot onto him just because the way that he carries himself, where it just, you can feel an entire lived experience behind that.
yeah. No, you put that perfectly. Yeah, and I think it's also because he really wants to be in the moment. He doesn't have a bag of tricks. He just comes and he wants to be in the moment, in the scene. Um, so yeah.
And this is a two-hander. So if that dynamic doesn't work, I mean, despite everything else that I love about this film, the movie really doesn't work because this is a character study more than anything else. Despite all the sci-fi trappings and all those other things, this is really just I could see doing this in a black box theater in a lot of ways. This does feel like something that is just about the interactions between these two characters. If you remove the Hal element, I guess the AI assistant from it. That's your other character here.
Yeah.
So getting that casting right between them two is really important. So talk about did you have them paired together, or was this something that you were thinking about that dynamic when you were casting them?
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can know before, like, we didn't just kind of gut decisions. I met with Brianna and she was really, really understood the character and just like got it. But we didn't have them read together. We just kind of,
Hmm.
yeah, it's just always a risk. But I think, when I think good actors will, at least in my experience, I don't feel like I've ever had that experience where I cast people and didn't have them read and it just felt totally off. I feel like if you cast good actors, they'll can find the chemistry somehow. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I've just been lucky. Um, but uh, but yeah, they both have a kind of very different approach when they come on set, but yet really clicked and got along and respected each other, and played against each other, like and we talked about it, kind of like Brianna was kind of the straight woman, like the straight one to,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, so there's a lot of just, yeah, that kind of dynamic in it. But her performance is so stoic, but yet like just like if you look at like the little things she does, she's kind of brilliant. Just little like subtle things that just say so much.
No, she's using very good in the film because it's something that if she didn't work, of course your movie doesn't work here. But
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
have seen films, and I'm not to name names because I don't like to do that. I tend to want to signal boost and I want to shed light on things and I
right.
want to promote things in that way. But there are films where you have good actors that are both giving good performances, but that connection you just don't buy for whatever reason, where they're not necessarily like they feel like they're in different films, because sometimes I love that juxtaposition of people that are in different worlds but colliding with one another. But you can just whatever that thing is between them just doesn't quite click. And this is really something where that dynamic is so important, and it absolutely does work here.
Well, you're right. There's definitely, like, even great actors can
Yeah,
sometimes click. Yeah, it's a way
but
to put
I
it.
mean, I know we're pretty much at time right now, and I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface of this thing.
Oh
This
yeah.
is just such a wonderful film, and I really enjoyed it. And congratulations! I think that you got a special one here. That it's not often that I see a film like this that I want to actually share it with my wife. That this is one that I would go to her and say, okay, just put all the sci-fi stuff aside. I actually think there's something that you're really going to enjoy here. And my 9-year-old kind of want to show him because the way he fights with his Alexa, I really would like him to see certain moments in here. I think he would appreciate
Oh,
it.
that's so nice of you to say. That's I'm really happy about that. Because yeah, I'm not like I like sci-fi a lot, but it's not like I'm not a diehard. So I don't want to. I didn't want to make a film that would only appeal to people fans of sci-fi. I wanted it's a character-driven film, like you said. Yeah.
Well, I think those are the ones that are the most successful to me, any genre film, because I'm a big fan of horror, sci-fi, anything like that. But the ones that I remember, the ones that I revisit time and time again, are ones that are more focused on the character work, that there is something else there that they have to say. And this is a deeply relevant movie in ways that I wish it wasn't. So, but right now, this is a movie that it could just be the times where I'm reading into everything, but this feels like a very prescient film right now.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So I hope
Yeah, that while
that this
making
particular
myself.
relevancy will go out of date within the next couple of years, is what I'm really
Yeah,
pulling for. So I hope I'll find new meaning when I revisit this in 5 years, if that makes
yeah.
sense.
Hopefully, yeah. I think like ideally, if you do it right, then at any given time, people find a different way to connect to it. I think when I started writing it, like it was just pre-COVID, and then when COVID happened, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so relevant because they're isolated. But now we've all forgotten about that. But now there's other things. Yeah,
Yeah, the idea of the sort of the interloper and the outsider, and that kind
yeah,
of the invasion of your personal bubble, I guess, is really what this is
yeah.
about in a lot of ways. And
And
um,
connecting between people who would on the surface not ever have a connection.
exactly, and they find one. which is, I think, the good thing that you can go through here. So maybe there's a pathway that we can see.
Common
There's a
humanity. It's
exactly.
common humanity. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jeffrey. Again, I really appreciate it, and I definitely recommend people check out the film.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Time enough to figure you out. Time enough to write this down. Wish me luck, give me hope. So I fall one more time, and I'll say I can't save you. Fell down into the bathroom, fade out into the background. Get up and fall down again. So I know you'll give up. Why can't you prove me wrong? There's just too much time. Why can't you prove me wrong? No way to make you mine. Why can't you prove me wrong? Nothing for each other. You'll be fine. Once more waking up face down. Two lives never to connect. You can't live there. Blocked out, shut up. So I fall one more time, and I'll say I can't save you. Why can't you prove me wrong? There's just too much time. Why can't you prove me wrong? No way to make you mine. Why can't you prove me wrong? Nothing for each other. You'll be fine. Save you now. Save you. Save you now. Save you. Save you now. Save you. My voice cracked.